both worlds are very, and both books are very, very fast paced. So did you write fast paced?
No.
I'm very slow.
Because it was like, I could just like imagine you just like write, you know.
Oh, yeah, I can't write fast
Because
enough.
everything was so quick. It was, I had to be able to breathe was
Yes.
like, had to get up for a minute to be able to breathe, actually with both books.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I want to know, Rosie, because you alternate characters. So how did you avoid the dreaded, like, oh, well, this one's not doing anything kind of low moment to keep up that structure? Was that difficult?
Yeah. I'm sitting here like doing crying face emoji because I'm just flashbacks to just writing this book, because I'm so glad it comes across as fast, because I'm notoriously very slow. I'm actually a very slow writer. And so like the fact that it doesn't feel that way is great. But with the sort of strict alternating structure, I guess the way I made it feel like each one, I really always wanted to feel like this is not like Karina's story and then Malik shows up sometimes. It's not Malik's story. Karina shows up. Like, I'm like, they are both co-protagonists. Like, if you only read one half, you're truly only reading one half of the story. And so it became a matter of what is there of seeding information into each half that the other needs but don't have. So there's things that if you remote Malik's half, suddenly other things about Karina's half make more sense, but she doesn't know that because she's there, and then vice versa. And so I think that's what really helped it feel like one big cohesive whole. And sometimes like they will learn the thing the other knows that they don't, and then sometimes they never do, but the reader knows it. So the reader's like, wait, why is Karina saying this? Like, wasn't she there when Malik? Oh yeah, she wasn't. Right. And so I think that helps to make it feel cohesive. And this idea that everything is building towards something bigger and everything is connected. So even when the characters aren't always on the same page, the reader's always on the same page. And that just helps it flow forward. Yeah,
that dramatic irony is so great about having more than one point of view. Like, you know, yes. Because you're able to do that. And the reader is able to go, I know, you know, and I love that when you're able to do that. Like there's a scene I really enjoyed writing in Queen. And it was one of the things I had to go back and write where there's like a near miss moment. Like it felt like a Star Wars situation where one character knows that the other is there and the other one doesn't. And that was so much fun to do. I had never been able to do that before. And that was completely character driven. I think you and I are both very character driven people, but that also speeds up the plot because the same things are happening from different points of view. And you kind of have to think about, okay, what's natural like to happen here and what actually has to happen. And then figuring out ways that like characters can learn information, right, without it being telegraphed. I mean, that's the hardest thing, I think, sometimes, especially in a fantasy world, because it's not like we have like cell phones or whatever, like, you know, like that's, you know, that can be a really interesting challenge, but it is like gas pedal, like trying to keep your foot on the gas pedal all the time. And that's, and what I'm doing, I'm revising King right now. And it's sort of like, my editor was like, this is slow. It either needs to be cut or dramatized. And I'm like, because gas pedal, like, you know?
And I love that you mentioned using that for drama, because I think you use it really well for humor too. Because there's a moment in Queen where Luca's like, well, my situation sucks, but at least Alma's okay. And Alma is very much not okay.
Not okay. She's not okay. Yeah, that was really fun to set up. Yes.
So now endings. Both of you write endings spectacularly.
Oh, thank you.
So did any of the endings change from what you thought they were going to be?
Yeah, in Queen, when I was rearranging things after I wrote it incorrectly the first time, there's a scene near the midpoint that actually was the end. And I was like, I got on the phone with my editor and I was like, yep, need to move this. I'm going to move it here. And she was like, oh, yes. And it's a very Games of Thronesy scene. So yeah, like it was a lot of fun, but I had to have it in there. And once I moved it, everything else opened up. And I was able to get people going the right direction that they needed to go. Yeah, I don't know. How about you, Rosie?
So for me, so a fun fact about Race, I didn't actually know who like the villain was. So I wrote the first draft. I was just like, when I get here, whoever feels like they make the most sense, they did it. And I get there, I'm like, that makes more sense. But after that first time, so I rewrote Race 6 times between like first idea and like the final published version. Sarah, I see your face there. It was painful. Yes.
Yes, that's painful.
The published version is draft 10. So of 10 drafts, 6 were rewrites. Think about that. But
wow.
It's y'all, my process makes no sense. Don't worry about it.
You've
Oh,
talked
the
about
thing
this
is-
on Twitter, like about your process, because you rewrite the whole thing, right? Like you don't just
I can't
edit it.
tinker. Like some people can like they can go in, but I'm like, because the way my stories like I try to make them work is like everything is building off of something. If I like kind of change one thing, it's like cascade, like everything under it has to be changed. Like it's not like I can't just pick and pull like Jenga. Like I can't do that.
Yeah.
So I think of it like a braid, right? So like if you unravel the braid, the whole thing goes.
Yeah.
But the ending, I will say, after I finally figured out who the actual villain was, the ending actually is one of the few things among the 6 rewrites that never changed. So like I say rewrites, but
Wow.
That's
the
interesting.
premise, yeah, but like so it was more like the premise always stayed the same. Like Malik and Karina have to kill each other, save their families, blah blah.
Right.
But like the execution, the way like there was a plot where it was a little more spy oriented, and then we're like, no, we don't like that
Ooh,
direction. It was a little
spy.
more like sort of heisty. We're like, we don't like this. Like the competition, like they're like bringing up competition. There was a whole rebel group, and the rebel she was like, scrap the rebel group. You're like, okay. So like just it was sort of the method of the way we were going to execute this, like the direction we were going to attack this premise from is kind of what kept changing. And so I'm definitely someone who like I know where I'm going toward, but like how I'm going to get there is something that's always kind of I'm very loose and fast with. Fun fact: the book actually was originally it wasn't even a romance. Like Malik and Karina had several. The shock on your face. Malik and Karina had
Wow.
separate love interests, and I still get flack about this one from my editor because Karina, I had the princess bodyguard trope going on with her, but then when
She had a thing for stable boys. I know there was like a line about like hiring uglier stable boys, and I was like, yes.
funniest line I think of the entire book, and like I think Karina and Amma would get along very well.
They would love each other, really.
Malik and Luca, that would be like, this is, I think they're scared of people just in general, which is fair. They both come from terrible lives. And they just be like, this boy seems like he's not going to hurt me. I love that.
Yeah, they should just pair together. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
They're like, you are not a threat to me. I love that. And it's
We
just,
need to do
so
a buddy comedy.
that would be great. Yeah, so it was a romance, like all this stuff, but the ending stayed the same. So like how they got there kept on changing, but like what happened when they got there was always the same sort of thing, kind of like this inevitable, like this is gonna happen no matter what you guys try and do to get away from it.
Mm-hmm. And that sets up the second book. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have to ask this. So Roseanne, what is your favorite scene in Queen? And then Sarah, what's your favorite scene in Race?
My favorite scene is a spoiler. Oh my god.
Can you like, can you talk in
I'm
very
gonna
general terms? I know Chelsea's read the book. I can see her face. Hi, Chelsea.
So-
I met her when I went to
Oh.
Connecticut 2 years ago.
Okay, so I'm gonna do this as vague as possible. So like Sarah, I hope you get what I'm talking
Okay.
about. But it's actually towards the beginning, right? And there is a scene where Amma meets a character who we have heard a lot about from book 1, who means a lot to her, but we don't see a lot of this character in book 1. And then Amma finally has her first kind of one-on-one meeting with this character. And just the layers of like what happens there's just so much tension. There's just so much, it goes very badly. And the thing is, as a reader, you expect this, like, you have an expectation of how this scene is going to go. Because like, if you read other books in this genre, we've read like when characters with this dynamic meet, these kinds of things happen. And then what happens in that moment, you're just like, oh no, ooh, ooh, ooh.
Those characters say exactly who they are in that scene. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
And like I loved it, like as a writer on a craft level, like what you pulled off there with the tension, just the energy and all that. And then as a reader, because it just broke my heart, because you're like, you can both tell both characters want what you think should happen to happen, but it doesn't happen, and you keep getting why it doesn't. This sounds so vague. If y'all haven't read it, you'll be like, what is she
I
talking
know
about?
exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly. But that was probably my favorite scene.
Oh man. Gosh. Now what am I gonna say about Rave? I mean, because it's so awesome. Like, you know, honestly, like any of the scenes where Malik is with Nadia, because I have a 6-year-old, like it just like my son is 12 and he does not treat his sister like that. And I would love if he did, but like just like their dynamic is so sweet and like so perfect. And so, I mean, and it's perfect for his character. Like their love of stories together, like, and even sort of the almost inciting incident where he's figuring out a riddle and she like shouts it out and, you know, chaos ensues, literal chaos ensues. You know, I love their dynamic so much. I mean, even in those, like the very first scenes, like they're just so cute. They're just so cute. And then you also have a scene between Karina and Malik where they don't know who each other are. I mean, you have a couple of those, but like there's one in particular where she rips her dress and he helps her. and it demonstrates like their class differentials and like it just like knowing who they are as the reader, right? And you're just like dying like the whole time for them to figure it out. Was it's just like chef's kiss. Like it's so perfect. It was so perfect.